My name is Fatboy, and I'm here with the amazing Olive, who is receiving rave reviews on social media whenever people are discussing our show or posting videos of our conversations. You'll see people commenting, "Oh, but that lady, she's so smart. She is arguing serious points." So I guess those who don't always agree with my viewpoint are quite happy that their views are represented and defended by you.
Okay.
So you better keep it up. But at this juncture, let's take a look at what's happening outside of Uganda, at some of our neighboring countries and how their politics is faring. We'll start with what's happening in South Africa, where the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, has dismissed claims that his new cabinet is bloated. And he says he is committed to restructuring the government. Meanwhile, the opposition Democratic Alliance leader, John Steenhuisen, on Thursday asked President Ramaphosa in Parliament if it was fair for ministers to be living like rock stars while ordinary citizens suffer. TIA, mister. It's TIA. This is Africa. And of course, our politicians must live like rock stars.
Like rock stars.
What? You don't know this? If you're not living like a rock star, well, join the winning team.
I know.
But anyway, Ramaphosa denied that he denied this opposition leader's claim that South Africa has the largest cabinet across the globe, saying that the country was basically in line with others. Meanwhile, there are plans to protest against the luxurious lifestyles that are alleged to be lived by the ministers. Well, in South Africa, the ministers there are among some of the highest paid on the continent, with salaries up to $135,000 in addition to personal staff and luxury cars.
Wow.
People might think this is controversial, but there's been research that's been done where they ask people, or they've done surveys where they ask people, do you miss the apartheid government? And a good number of blacks are saying, actually, we do. There's aspects about life in the previous political paradigm that is certainly better than what they have now. You see, people are easily blinded by the issue of representation. For people, it matters so much that the politicians ruling you and oppressing you look like you. So if, on the other hand, the politicians ruling over you don't look like you, but they provide better services, to me, it seems like you may want to think about those guys more than your brethren who are doing a terrible job.
I think with every administration, good or bad, there is always something you can take away and say, okay, Amin was a terrible president, but maybe during this time, ABCD happened.
Mm-hmm.
So even during apartheid, many South Africans, the black ones, hated it. And today, some of them may look back and say, probably we had more structure when it came to maybe schools and education. And now maybe in some places, we do not even have teachers or medical personnel in hospitals. Yeah, but at the same time, one cannot also look away from everything else that was apartheid.
So, for example, was there forceful repression of political movements? Yes.
Arbitrary
arrests? Yes. Were people killed? Yes. But in
freedom of movement, yes.
Limited,
curfews,
but
yes.
In scope, scale, and in impact, what South Africa is going through now can't be, I would argue you can't compare it.
Financially can't be compared.
Not financially, but you travel to my mother traveled to South Africa. This is long ago. This is like early 2000s. At the time she was still working. She is now retired, bless her soul. But she was working, and her team, her delegation, she was at the time working for Uganda Investment Authority. So they traveled to South Africa for some kind of conference or something. And when they checked into their hotel, they were advised by the hotel manager against leaving the hotel at night, saying that it was not safe. And to always make sure that you move in a group and that you always check on each other to see if you're okay. And this is like broad daylight stuff. South Africa is so dangerous. Carjackings, murders. I mean, AKA the rapper, Lucky Dube. I mean, the gang life in South Africa is insane. So yeah, whereas in South Africa, you may not necessarily worry about some apartheid era cop oppressing you.
You have to worry about guns.
You have to worry about your neighbor. in the townships that you occupy, and even in the suburbs, these gangs will still come for you. It's a very dangerous country. The economic inequality is greater. Access to healthcare and education is worse now than it was then. So,
But one would ask, is this all over the country or in the townships? Because in as much as they have blacks representing them in government, most of them have not done anything to get them out of poverty. So they turn to crime, they turn to gangs, because that's what butters their bread.
do you mean for the local South Africans?
Yes.
Well, I feel like at some point as a society, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. We can't constantly blame our rulers for the situation we find ourselves in.
But you see, with rulers with rulers, there are policies. And
So-
if the policies are favorable, then you're going to find people don't just get excuses. People want to be responsible for their actions. But if the policies are not in their favor, you just said that South Africa got worse when they got black leaders. So those leaders have not done anything to make their people better. And because of that, everything else that you have described that is negative has come to the fore.
Here's the problem, and I don't think we can use poverty as an excuse. Because there's plenty of poor people.
I didn't
Wait,
even say poverty. I said poor policies in everything.
in other words, the poor policies are leading to poverty. Thus,
And you can say that there is a lot of poverty
There-
in the townships.
there is, but my point is, you can't always blame poverty for violence we inflict upon each other.
You see, when there is xenophobia in South Africa, or the black South Africans killing other blacks from other countries, what do they normally say? That you're taking away our jobs, you're taking away our
yeah.
sources of income.
What I wanted to say is this: there's plenty of poor people in India. India is it's rich, but also has a huge population of poor people. Same might be true of China. Just because you're poor, it doesn't automatically predispose you into criminality. There is a cultural aspect to it,
So what's
right? And a social aspect
so
to
what
it.
is predisposing black South Africans to gangs and crime? The
Now-
same could be asked
now-
for black Americans.
Huh? You want to open Pandora's
No,
box?
I'm asking to understand
You wanna-
because I don't want you to just be.
Perhaps your question answers itself.
It doesn't. I
To
asked
me, it
because I
does.
need an answer. Okay, to you it does. So can you answer me? And probably someone out there listening and they are trying to also understand.
I just feel like as Africans and black people generally, it is high time we have a serious and honest conversation about our societies and our communities and how we govern ourselves. And to the extent that we want to blame our leaders for all of the things that are going wrong, at some point, we also have to realize that the buck stops with us. And it is a bad society that will produce bad leaders anyway. So that can't be denied. But to just go back to what is going on in South Africa, of course, the corruption there is sky high. It's rampant. Do you know there's more load shedding in South Africa than even Uganda nowadays?
Yeah.
It's
True.
funny. And this is a nuclear nation. They have nuclear power. And they still can't get their act together and provide their people with the energy. This is so horrible. So I don't have much hope for South Africa, and their leaders continue to live lavishly, paying themselves exorbitant salaries, and if not that, stealing what should be there for everyone else to enjoy. It's really a sad state of affairs in South Africa, and we all love Nelson Mandela. We love what he stood for, but man, there is only so much he could do. By the time he handed over power to his successors, I think the country was already in a downward spiral. You see, nice speeches does not make a successful country. You've got to have a culture of hard work, of discipline, and of respect. And unless we're ready to have that conversation in Africa, we might be doomed. Or so I think anyway.